we'll go ahead and call to order the 109 board meeting of May 26, 2021. And I show we're calling it to order at 5:31 p.m. Welcome, everybody. First order of business is approval of minutes. And has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? They would have been the minutes of our previous meeting, the April 28th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
Bob, I move approval.
Mary Rose moves approval of the April 28th minutes. Do we have a second?
I second.
That was Susan?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by board members of the minutes? Any changes? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, you want to call, do you need to call roll or is this voice vote?
Voice vote will be fine.
All those in favor of approving the April 28th board meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the minutes for April 28th are approved. Next item of business is the budget report.
Okay, can everybody see the budget report screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been 1 month since we met, so not much has changed. Although I will say that our revenue did come up. We got the last bit, so we are pretty close to being at what we would anticipate for this fiscal year. So $1,277,000, which is 137% of what the revised budget was. So we're running very well on there. And in the total expenditures, we haven't had a whole lot of change there, although we should be receiving our first payment on the front load truck because it has been delivered. So we're also running at 128% of our expenditures, and that is a lot of that due to the things that we did last year finally coming due. So in the end, that our rollover amount of $1,271,000 with our revenue and our expenses, that gives us a balance of $1.314 million. We didn't have any expenditures over $5,000 in the previous month. Most of the expenditures were for uniforms and the like, cellular service. But that would be my budget report.
Are there any questions or comments of the board members on the budget report? Okay, thank you, Mr. Flood. We'll move on. We have no action items for tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Next item that we move into is old business. And at the last meeting, Bob Lee had requested that we put the issue of stakeholder involvement in the advisory committee subcommittees on the agenda, and I think I saw where Bob checked in. Are you there, Bob?
I am, thank you.
Would you like to go ahead and bring up whatever you wish to bring up on this?
Okay, did everybody get a copy of the letter?
Yeah, it was given out at the last board meeting.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Appreciate, Bob, you giving me the opportunity to talk to everyone. The letter is pretty much self-explanatory. Just after 2 or 3 years being on the board, and it somewhat became concerned in regards to basically the board members and the staff and the committee members were all communicating amongst ourselves and not really getting members of the community involved. The people that, that actually will be living the decisions and the regulations that we might be initiating. So I put the letter together, and it pretty well, and it did match. It referenced Bob's notes and discussions that we had in a 109 board meeting on, I think, October of 2019, and then again on December of 2019, I think. And it pretty much mirrors the fact that, the chairman, as well as a lot of us, anticipate that we would want to get more stakeholders involved. And so I felt that it was important in order to bring it up at a board meeting and discuss it amongst everybody in order to see how everybody else feels. Since that time, though, the letter was actually written in April 19th. Since that time, excuse me, I'm sorry. Since that time, we have actually found that there's been a lot more participation in regards to stakeholders in not only the subcommittees, but also the advisory committees. And I also would note and appreciate the fact that the staff has reached out to a number of stakeholders also, organizations and associations that we feel like are important in order to make sure that they're part of the discussion and the process of our solid waste initiatives. So I think there's been a lot done since I wrote the letter, and would just simply entertain the fact of discussion with the board. And in regards to actually doing having a motion, I would simply put that to the pleasure of the board if they feel like it's necessary to do so. So I do appreciate everybody's concern of the issue itself, and Bob would just simply open it up to see if there's any discussion with the board members.
Well, I'll make a contribution. Bob, are you just going to letting us talk here? Or
Yeah.
okay. I would make a contribution to the discussion in that I went to the last, I think it was the C&D and residential subcommittee of the advisory council. And there were several stakeholders who were at that meeting and who participated. And I think that the whole subcommittee and everyone who was there benefited from the contributions that those people made. And I hope that that's an ongoing thing. And I think this is the kind of thing that you're talking about, Bob Lee, is that kind of participation.
Absolutely.
So I think that it was a very positive meeting, and in large part because there were so many people who were stakeholders there.
Yes, exactly. And I was in the same meeting, and it does help the process much easier and better. And I think that everybody feels comfortable with having outside stakeholders involved. So yeah, it's what I'm talking about. And quite frankly, I know that Bruce Burrow is on the call. He's the chairman of the advisory board. He is, I think, pretty adamant in the fact that he also feels like there should be as many stakeholders involved as possible. And I think he actually said so in his last advisory committee meeting. So, Bruce, would you want to comment on it, or would you want to add anything?
Actually, I was very pleased with the involvement of the stakeholders and the committee members, the efforts they put forth. I think as we go through this process, we're learning a lot, and to have a collaborative solution that will fit each category may eliminate some of our targets that we had on the effort and impact matrix. We're trying to look at these issues, identify which ones are doable, which ones are possibly a great idea, but not feasible. And getting the buy-in from the stakeholders in the community early on is going to be a way that we can put together some type of guidelines, if you will. I don't want to say ordinances. I don't want to say rules. I don't want to force somebody to do something. I want them to be a contributor, a voluntary contributor to a solution. And I think that's where we're starting at. And Bob, thank you so much for ensuring that we follow Mr. Schindler's direction, that we bring fully vetted recommendations back to the 109 board. And I'm just sorry, Mr. Schindler, that they're not coming any faster than they are. Just trust in the fact that we are diligently working on different topic items as we go through the list.
Well, again, Bruce, I don't think you owe anybody an apology on that. I think we made clear several board meetings ago that we weren't pushing the advisory committee on this, realizing that the advisory committee is made up of a bunch of volunteers, and it's some complex issues that we try to get into in taking a look at that 10-year study that was done and some of the recommendations that were made in that study. So I don't think you have anything to apologize. Nobody's pushing you all on any kind of a deadline.
No, and I don't mean to imply that you're pushing us. It's just when you're challenged with a task, you want to bring a resolution, a accurate resolution to that task as quickly as possible. And I know there are people who are getting frustrated because we are putting a lot of time towards it. And I just wish it was a simple solution, but these are very complex issues that we're facing. And again, to make sure that it sticks when implemented, we have to have everybody's cooperation and everybody's buy-in. So we're working hard and we want to bring you a good product.
Well, and absolutely, and gathering good data goes a long way to that. So I'm not going to criticize anybody if they take extra time to make sure they have all of the data they need before they before you all make any kind of recommendations.
Well, thank you for that.
Do we have any other board member comments or observations?
I can share one observation if we're going to move on to the committee report. Are you done with new business, Bob?
Yeah, I think so. If nobody has any other comments or questions, we can just move right on into the advisory committee report, because there is, correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, no new business as of this time.
That's correct.
Well, never mind. It's not on the agenda, so we can't do it anyway. Okay, advisory committee report.
Well, I'd like to start off with a question. When we were looking at variable rate pricing, and we had a very extensive discussion regarding variable rate pricing, as Pete had on his list, we had one hauler that still continues to provide one service, and they do not provide pricing for recycling and yard waste. And just as a question, how does a chair of an advisory committee or anything like that, as an industry representative, my question is it not in the ordinance that the haulers have to provide all three services? And if they're not providing all three services, how can they obtain a license to operate?
I think as from what I remember of the ordinance, not having it open in front of me, that is a requirement. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, but that is in the ordinance that you must offer those three services.
You must offer all three services. Citizens must have garbage service. Recycling and yard waste are optional services as long as it's offered. And in relation to the individual company that does not have those, when people apply for a new license, we don't ask for their variable rate pricing structure. We give them the ordinance, we talk to them about the ordinance, and we have become aware of the issue that they are not providing that service. In fact, we found out again today. I have been working on a reminder letter that will go to all haulers, and we will get with this one individual hauler at the same time to remind them of their obligations under the ordinance in providing services, what services they have to provide. And just to do that on a bit of a grander scale, because I think that some people, you get comfortable and you don't realize that you should be doing everything. It's difficult to sometimes know if somebody isn't until you get a complaint about it. But rest assured, yes, we are fully aware that that individual company is not providing that service, or at least they didn't report that they provided that service. And we need to get that fixed. So we will do so.
And please don't take it as an attack on that company. It's just my understanding of the ordinance. And it just kind of hits me the way when I see, the rules that we should and are asked to follow. They need to be consistent. So that's all I ask. I'm not trying to put anybody out of business or anything like that. I don't want that to be thought. I just want it to be a fair playing field. Other issues with regard to the advisory committee. I was not able to sit in on the earlier meeting today. We had a very good advisory committee meeting. I guess it's been a week or so ago, where we did have fantastic stakeholder involvement with some of the topics that we discussed. I think we had someone there. Brian, are you on the call?
Yes, sir, I am, Bruce.
Could you review who actually was in attendance? I don't have my notes available right now.
At which meeting, Bruce?
At the advisory committee meeting, we had, there were two ladies, one gentleman there.
Are you talking about the stakeholders? Or-
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, my recollection is we had Juva Barber, who's the head of the BIA in Louisville, Kentuckiana. We had the president and CEO of the Kentucky Restaurant Association, and we had the president of the Louisville Apartment Association. So it was three pretty substantial stakeholders that I think phoned in and registered their interest in participating in the process, which I thought was great.
I think that they were very appreciative of the information they picked up. I think they're very, excited about getting involved early on in a process. And I don't want to speak for everyone on the committee, but I was very pleased with their involvement in the discussions. Very, I don't want to say spirited, it was pretty lively. We got a lot done. I felt like we actually made some headway. Mr. Wicking gave a presentation with regard to C&D recycling and, the efforts required to recycle some commodities out of the construction demolition waste stream. And I know today, I believe there was a meeting earlier on ICI Self Hall. I was not able to attend. So I don't know if Sandra or Greg are on the call.
I don't see either one.
Well, in that case, I believe, Brian, are you on the ICI Self Committee? You there, Mr. Slade?
Yeah, say again, Bruce, I couldn't hear you.
Were you involved with the meeting earlier today, the ICI Self Hall Subcommittee?
No, sir, I was not.
That
There
meeting
wasn't a meeting.
happens, yeah, that meeting happens before the advisory committee, so it was last week.
Oh, okay. All right.
And yeah, the report for that, Greg isn't here, I guess, but the main thing that has happened is that there's a survey to send to self-haul stakeholders. And we also gave out some peer cities that we can, that some of the members are planning to go ahead and review to report back. Anything else, Pete, on that survey?
No, that is probably the smallest of the initiatives as far as stakeholders go. And, you know, I thought that the members taking up the challenge of reviewing some of the cities when it comes to, it wasn't in relation to the self-haul though. It was in relation to signage and infrastructure in the ICI sector, industrial, commercial, institutional. Right, Karen?
I could be mistaken, it's Diane, because they're both subcommittees worked on a survey, so I could easily be getting them
It
confused.
does get confusing.
And when you talk about C and D, sometimes you're talking about that material being hauled by self.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, we've got a survey out there. I'm sure we're getting some good feedback. There's challenges that I see with it, but there may not be such that we can't overcome. And we'll continue to work on that. I believe Mr. Wicken gave us a very thorough review of his efforts in C&D recycling. And if it's possible, find an end use to make it sustainable, you know, it may be worth an investment. But, you know, there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle, if you will. And I think we just continue to move on as a committee and subcommittees. Everybody's investing a lot of time and a lot of effort, and Karen's providing great leadership. I apologize for not having my notes with me, but I thought it was probably one of the more exciting meetings last meeting when we did have people outside of our normal group contribute and bring some fresh ideas into the mix.
Just for clarification for the general audience, when you refer to self-haul, we're referring to what Karen mentioned, the industrial, commercial, institutional people. We're not, when we say self-haul, we're not referring to the individual homeowner who packs up something and hauls it to the landfill or to the waste reduction center.
Actually, Bob, if I could, in the study, they defined self-haul as a person that generates and hauls their own waste, generally residential, and in a car, van, or small truck. That is what the self-haul customer is, as far as what the study and the study recommendation is discussing. It is very confusing because you also have businesses that are self-hauling to a certain degree, but most of those businesses are like a roofer that hauls their own shingles. And generally, they have already separated their materials before they're transported. So there's, these things are very intertwined, and you can't definitively say that this is a subgroup, because they all kind of work together and they can get confusing. Yeah, self-haul is, and we're trying to make sure that we explain these definitions as to what we're defining, what we're talking about at the time.
All right, thanks.
Mhm.
Does the board have any questions or comments for Bruce? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Bruce and Karen, for that report. Next item would be the staff report.
Okay, so Karen, do you want to go and take this, or you want me to?
I don't care.
Okay.
I can start, you fill in if I miss anything.
Okay.
We do have the recycling cart distribution that we've been talking about for quite some time now. The grant was approved several months ago, and we of course appreciate the district's contribution to that. And last week, our postcards hit the mailboxes of the folks that would receive a cart. So that was kind of an initiation to have all of our information ready, as far as the website and putting some information in the works week and everything. We are now only doing every other week recycling. If we have ever mentioned every other week yard waste and recycling alternating, that was changed at the last minute. And we are now just doing every other week recycling now that all recyclers, once the distribution is done in July, this begins July 12th. But that means that all of our current recyclers have 95-gallon capacity, as opposed to some of quite a few of our recyclers having only 18-gallon capacity. So cart distribution will begin on Tuesday, right after Memorial Day, and each cart will have a packet with some frequently asked questions, accepted items, and a calendar that kind of gets you started to see that it'll be every other week. And we're sending that same card to current recyclers that already had a cart. So they'll be reminded what's accepted. There's some top contaminants as to what's not accepted in recycling. It also refers people to Recycle Coach to use that to understand where to put things that don't belong in recycling. And it also has the every other week information and calendar to get us started. So again, that doesn't start until July 12th, but once residents receive a cart, if they're in the first go around on Tuesday, then they can go ahead and start using that cart for recycling.
For the people like myself that already bought a cart, a recycling cart, we won't be getting another one. You'll note that we already have one, and you won't give me another one. That's
correct. And we have had interesting feedback from the community that is across the board as far as what people could possibly think. And like me, and I guess you, Debbie, already have a cart, so we won't receive one, but we are going to every other week recycling. So, so we're reminding people that to recycle what is accepted, to crush containers, flatten cardboard, do things maybe that you didn't have to do before during weekly recycling. And then there are some people who like their little bins and they don't want big carts. It's too much space and things like that. So, so that Pete's pulling up our website. Based on some of the feedback, we have some questions and answers on our website. One is, what if I already fill a 95-gallon cart weekly? Because we've had a lot of feedback of our avid recyclers, they're concerned that they won't have enough space. So, so we encourage just to reduce waste, do the things I've already mentioned, but also, of course, they can use another container that they purchase from the city, or a store-bought container that they maybe already have or purchased. But there are some rules. 30 to 40-gallon capacity has to have handles and a lid. Part of this process is to keep litter out. Those open top 18-gallon bins were kind of a cause of litter and recycling blowing out. So, so they will be phased out over time. Our goal is to not collect from those after January 1st. But we offer stickers if you want to use your own container for extra.
So you're saying these other, like 2 or 3 orange bins that I have, and sometimes I do put stuff in those as well, because I have a couple of different houses. Then I won't be able to use those after? Are you all going to pick them up, or what do we do?
That's correct. That's another question. what will happen to those 18-gallon bins. So we're asking residents to, of course, well, they'll be repurposed if they're still good and you don't want it. So drop those off with us at the Waste Reduction Center or one of the recycle and drop-off locations. We're using that as a place for drop-off. You can also keep it if you want for additional storage. If they're no good, because I know they do get damaged over time, they can be recycled too.
I would add, I'm sorry.
But we can't use those to recycle after January 1.
That's correct.
And if we want another bin, even though we bought one already, we'll have to buy another one. We won't get a free one.
We aren't saying that we're giving any free away because we don't have that information in front of us. There will be some additional containers left over, we assume, because we, rounded up when we ordered, but we can't really designate where those are going to go at this time. So a lot of our questions are also give it 60 days, try to do this for 60 days and see where we're at. Just to kind of get everybody a handle on how much waste they're going to have, if they really will have overflow. I know personally, I don't worry because it's weekly, but if I know it's every other week, I'll certainly think about flattening and crushing things a little bit more. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get used to.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the Recycling Partnership does this in a lot of communities, and we just happen to have had the option to get a cart already. So it's kind of unfortunate because of the fact, those of us who already purchased a cart, we're not really getting anything free, and it it's going down to every other week, which we're not used to. So we do understand that, but we do trust that every other week recycling with a 95-gallon cart, is possible. So, Pete, were you going to say something about the additional bin or the bins if people?
Well, one of the bigger reasons that we're not going to collect those is that, particularly in multifamily, in a lot of people's households, they use the bin inside, and they can't take a cart inside, so they'll have it in their utility room, or they'll, in a lot of apartments, you have your own, and that's the only place that you have. So a lot of people will still use those internally and then take and empty it into their larger cart outside. So that's an advantage of continuing to keep those bins at the curbs with people so they can do that. But we do encourage people that if they're not going to use them, to turn them in. We would love to be able to send those to another community or to schools, the ones that can be repurposed, so that we can increase recycling in those areas for people that can't afford anything. That was it. And the other, just one other thing, another big reason for the bins to go away is repetitive motion injuries for our workers and workers' comp. The litter comes from them, absolutely. But to bend over for all of those bins all the time, over weeks, months, years, can wear you out, particularly the back. So it's as much a workers' comp issue as it is a litter issue and capacity issue.
Wow.
Yeah, and an 18-gallon bin, from somebody who carries one to the curb, an 18-gallon bin full of newspaper. If you happen to take the newspapers or you get a lot of junk mail, an 18-gallon bin full of paper is awfully heavy. It's different picking that up because you have to bend over to get it as opposed to grabbing a garbage can, which is the handles are pretty much up at your waist level to start with.
Mhm. And with the bins with the lid, or with the cart with the lid, you're not necessarily going to have to get that rain on it, which is going to increase that weight. Okay, I need to pause myself for just a second.
Do we have any other questions of Pete or Karen on the cart distribution, recycling cart distribution? Karen, do you want to go ahead and, since Pete has paused, do you want to go ahead and do the pop-off, drop-off report?
Sure. I don't have access to change the slide, but I know he does have a slide showing our current, ever since we started them in September of 2020. So we had 3 last year, and we've done 3 this year. So we've kind of reached, you know how we were putting those pop-up drop-offs in the east end, the more centrally located, and then the southwest. So we've actually had 2 events in each of those areas at this point. The chart there shows our data of what the date, location, number of participants. And, you know, at the beginning, we didn't collect the same data, and with things like shredding, sometimes we don't get a whole lot of data, except that, yes, we offered it. And I didn't write yes for Eastern, but we did offer it. We had some issues with the shredding truck breaking down. However, if you note or see, our participants for Eastern High School last Saturday was 812. So I almost can't believe it, but we had a lot of vehicles come through, and mostly wanting to do, well, mostly electronics, recycling. A lot of them wanted to do shredding. We did post on social media that our truck was broke down, so we're not really sure if that deterred anyone from coming, because you know, we didn't want people to show up and be upset that it was broken. And then I think they finally got in a different truck. You know, the chart, you can kind of see as far as what we're doing, how much is being recycled. The junk, quote unquote junk, there is landfilled, of course, but part of the reason to do this, the way we're doing it, is to recover more materials. So your traditional junk drop-offs, they were not made, and the plan was not to try to recover anything. It was just, you know, throw everything out. So by offering, you know, a metal dumpster so they can recycle scrap metal and capture some yard waste for composting, collect the tires separately, collect electronics. You know, it's been great as far as recovery. And of course, we always offer a household recycling. It's not the most popular thing, but it works out sometimes because some of people's junk is actually really big cardboard boxes or something. So, or maybe something was inside one, so they're able, or their shredding was inside a cardboard box. So having that available is good.
I would also add that the yard waste category includes clean wood and pallets. I was really kind of surprised in our first couple of events how many pallets that people had and was throwing into the pile. And we asked Matt Smith if it was good to put the pallets in with the yard waste, and he said sure. So there's a portion of that yard waste that is clean wood and pallets. So that's another bit of diversion that you might not understand if you just look at the yard waste title.
And this year, we didn't do it for the first 3 last year, but this year we're using the Survey 123 app. So each vehicle, we're asking their zip code and tapping which category they brought. So we're kind of getting a handle on where people are coming from for each event and what items they're bringing, which will help us in our setup at certain areas, if we know, we kind of already knew or had an idea, but for example, electronics and shredding are very popular, especially in like the East End. So we know we have to set that up in a certain way so we don't create any bottlenecks as cars are trying to go through. So the more data we have like that, the more we can determine the best way to get people through. Because apparently people know about these events and are wanting to participate, which is good.
Yeah, we do have an issue with people arriving an hour early and everybody arriving in the first couple to 3 hours. So it's this huge surge and then it kind of slows down. So it's tough. The biggest goal is to try to keep the roadways open. And that's been a big, big challenge.
Now that you've done 6 of them and you've crossed the county twice, are you finding that people are tending to stay in their own area? Because I could imagine when we first started this, there would be a rush to get rid of stuff. So you might drive all the way across town to try to get rid of something. But with having done twice now, is there any indication that it's narrowing down to the areas, general areas where it's being collected?
We haven't evaluated the zip codes from this past Saturday yet, but for both the March and the April events, we've made these maps that kind of visually show, and the majority of the participants are coming from the surrounding area. But oddly enough, we've had somebody come from pretty much every zip code. So somebody's coming, but it's definitely not, it's not as many vehicles, but we do have, that'll be part of it, is showing these maps and visually, so you can visually look at the county and see where people are going. So it's pretty interesting.
And it's been a while. I can't remember any of the figures when we were still doing this at the landfill. I know there was dropping off of participation towards the end, but is participation generally better with these pop-offs than it was at one central location?
Well, I was, I had the opportunity to work several of them when it was out at the Outer Loop landfill once or twice a year. And I can say that I wasn't there early on, but we're doing in one event, particularly this last event, what we would do there for one time a year. So all in all, we are doing extremely well with this event, and we're reaching a lot more people. We're going to where they're at. So I think that has really helped. And the fact that we're also collecting more material. The response has been extremely positive, with the exception of a few bottlenecks, and particularly a situation where we had the shredder go down. That was not a good situation. But people have generally been extremely happy with the events, and they're very appreciative of the events. And I just think that they're going to continue to grow in popularity.
Any questions of board members? Okay, thank you guys again.
Chairman Schindler?
Yeah.
I just want to commend the group, because if you flip back to that slide, I think I saw we were there 400 or 200, 400 pounds of medications taken off the street on May 22nd. And that's huge, but you've got half a ton of meds that were properly disposed of. I am surprised with the success of these drop-offs.
Sorry, the sheriff's office has been very good to work with, and willing to send officers out to all these events to collect prescription medication. So that's been very helpful.
Now, Karen, as an employee that works within the city, living outside of the city, am I able to bring meds to one of the drop-off pop-up locations?
I think it's for Jefferson County residents, right?
Yeah.
No, so that would be a no. I'll have to use one close to the house. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, moving right along, Recycle Right program update.
Well, we put this on the agenda with the hopes of having a ask for you guys tonight. But there's a few more details that we need to work out. We're almost complete with all 3 pilot areas. We already know that the program is a very big success in reducing contamination. Like I've told you several times, we're looking to do this by hiring part-time employees, 3 days a week or 4 days a week, to go out and do this on a much grander scale and to expand it to wherever we can. We have to get a job description laid out. We have to get the costs, what we're going to pay people, and we're not looking to pay minimum wage. And we can't pay minimum wage, or we're not going to have the right kind of people doing it. So we want to make sure that we get the cost right for you guys, and so that you can have an informed decision when it comes time. But we really are excited about the program, and I'm disappointed that we can't make our ask. It takes a while to get people in place. So this thing is going to just be really beneficial to keeping contamination levels down, particularly when you're moving from bins to carts. So we really don't have a whole lot on the topic tonight. Just disappointed we couldn't fully do what we wanted to do tonight.
We'll have
I
more
noticed
data next month.
Yeah.
I noticed on the graphic, you said there are 211 households. So you approached households whether they were recycling or not?
We mailed letters explaining the program, and but we kind of did a little bit of a pre-audit to see what was going on in the area. So we knew that there wasn't a full participation like in that particular area, but every household received the letter, and we did 3 different tagging events. And the participation rate really didn't change. It hovered right around that 34% for that area. So the letter, those that received it that did not recycle normally, it wasn't an encouragement for them. It doesn't show, we're not seeing that there's a sudden boost in participation. But we do see a boost in better recycling after they get some feedback. And all of the, we've spoken to residents while we're on the streets. People have, generally, we get positive feedback about the engagement, and we are seeing that people are improving their recycling. And the Deer Park neighborhood, we did a follow-up 18 weeks later, and they were still even better than they were at our 3rd tagging event. So that was really good for us to see, because it's not like after a few months they just sort of reverted back to old habits. So we have a plan to go back to the South Side neighborhood after some time has passed, and we're currently we've done 1 tagging in the Shawnee neighborhood. There's a lot of waste issues in that area. So I'm really looking forward. We're going to tag there again on Tuesday. So for the next month's meeting, we should have our data to share with that. So I'll feel pretty good if we can make some improvement there.
Any questions of Karen?
I have a comment. I have mentioned this program to several people, and everybody that I mentioned it to is just very excited to have their recycling graded, and they want to know what's good and what's not good. So it's people that I know are very excited about it. So
Yes.
Is this an approval to do this in your home rule city?
Oh, I would heard about it, but that sounds like a good idea. I would be for that.
We are all for taking the
I'm
show
not
on the road.
the person who can give permission, but I will talk to the commissioners. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great to move it outside of the USD.
Yeah.
Well, if there's an interest, obviously, in moving it outside the USD, Mary Rose, could you take that to the? I kind of look at you as our obvious contact with the League of Cities.
Oh, certainly I would do that. Yeah, yeah. Parkway Village is a pretty small area, so I've also had mentioned it to Tony Williams, the mayor of Audubon Park, and he seems pretty enthusiastic. Neither of us, like I said, permission from our council yet, but we are interested. We're
And
right close to each other, so.
any participation outside of the USD would obviously we would have to work with the your individual hauler as well. And but I think that there's generally, I think Bruce mentioned at the last meeting that he felt like that we can definitely work together.
Now, coming from an area like I'm in Fern Creek, where we are not an incorporated city, we're not part of Metro Louisville. How does this apply to us out further in the county?
Well, it's a little bit more of a challenge, and the challenge is that you can have multiple haulers on the same street. So it may be based upon an individual hauler and their customer base. So it does present a much bigger challenge to be able to do this program. They may have services on different days. So it's not something that's insurmountable. I think that anything can be done if we just work together and find a way to do it.
Well, I see a lot of things out. However, would that be on the part of the individual hauler to like leave tags like is being done in the city? Is that something that can be done out here? I see an awful lot of plastic just thrown away in the garbage, not recycled at all.
Well, we're not at this point, we're not getting into any garbage. It is strictly in the recycle cart already.
Yeah.
So, eventually we wouldn't mind moving into that, particularly when it comes to yard waste being in the garbage stream, but we're just not there yet. It would be something that we would work with the individual hauler. The individual hauler is more than welcome to mimic what we're doing. We'll give them all the information and have them, we'll work with them to be able to understand it, use the material, or we can send our people there to do it as part of the waste district.
Thank you.
Ms. Hart, as a hauler, I will tell you that it is in our best interest to work with the customer to ensure the cleaner the recyclable stream, the better. It devalues our commodity, whether we take it to a third party processor or we take it internally. The cleaner that we can get that product, the better off we are as a company. And we've used OOPS tags previously in other cities. I think it's been a very successful way of communicating and educating the customer on what actually goes and doesn't go in the container.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, report a litterer.
Okay, at the last board meeting, I think Deetra and Bob, there was a discussion about people blowing grass, leaves, and litter into the roadway, and it has been a problem. So the idea was, could we modify the reported litterer into being able to do this? So what we did was we met with Metro Call and we looked and, they get a lot of calls about it. And we looked at how it's done right now in our system. And unfortunately, we just can't modify the program to work this way. So we're going to have to go to a little bit deeper to change the Acela CRM system so that people will be able to choose this as a topic. And then it'll create, we think, a new service request that would come to our department. And then we would be able to send, research who is the owner of that property, where this was occurring, and we can send them a letter. I think it's a great idea. And I'm really excited about it. Priority level in getting this done, we have to throw it in with all of the other Acela issues that we have, which are many. So it's a matter of some resources now. I think that we'll get it done. I can't say that we'll have it done next week, but I do believe that this could potentially have an impact on people that are doing that. The unfortunate part of any program like this is it doesn't carry a way to follow up on that person if they just continue to refuse to do it. And that can lead to increased frustration because as a person that called it in, that they've been reported and they continue to do it. And that will increase some frustration with the people that just don't want to listen. But honestly, I think that when it's a business, I think that they take it to heart and they will do something about it. It's the individual homeowner that I think that we may have a problem with, or apartment complex where we have a landlord that's not very active. He just wants to get, his check for the month and move on. So I think overall it will be very successful. So we just wanted to follow up with that because I know that was a topic at the last meeting.
And it's also, or it can be a safety issue. If particularly if a large.
Yeah, thank you for following up on that. But I think the safety issue, especially motorcycles going to grass like that, it can make them slide. So
yeah. I know that at a particular time of year, during the fall, when the leaves just even fall on the roadways and they get a little bit wet, it's slick. So there is an issue that we need to point out. And I think that's something that we need to point out in our letter to them, that it's not only a litter issue, it's also an MSD issue, clogging drains, and it's also a safety issue for people on bicycles and people on motorcycles.
Yeah.
So once we get to the point where we can create that letter, we'll definitely share that with you guys, and we'll keep you updated on our progress.
thank you.
As an aside, on the grass issue, you might check with Metro Parks as well, because I know they do the parkways, down Southern Parkway, and their drivers sometimes put grass in the street. So, that would be one source that you could go to and maybe cover a lot of ground.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, it's Bob. Just wanted to let everyone know that on behalf of the Kentucky chapter of the National Waste and Recycling Association, who is the chapter that represents all of the private service providers in Jefferson County, that we reached out to Rob in order to ask him if there's anything that we could do in order to assist his efforts. And in a conversation that we had in our last monthly meeting, what we found out was that there's numerous individuals, management and so forth from facilities that are in Jefferson County that do a lot of effort in regards to litter abatement by cleaning up their area, a quarter of a mile, half a mile from their facility and processing centers and so forth. So we anticipate that we could possibly do some help in that regard, as well as get Rob to possibly attend a meeting with us in order to see what else we could do with them.
Yeah, good idea. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Then move on to enforcement, illegal dumping.
Okay, well, everyone knows that you guys, as the Waste District Board, purchased probably about 28 cameras. Louisville Metro Council at the last fiscal year allotted $50,000 for additional cameras. And they also purchased a new lift for us because our bucket truck was broke down more than it was operating. So we have finally, in the past, since our last meeting, gotten to start in earnest getting our cameras installed. And we have nearly 85 of them completed. The results so far has been positive. We have lots of images, citations, and impounds and social media things to get out there. We just haven't been able to do it yet. But I am going to share a little bit about what we're doing here. Let me see. So you can see we have on our map here, these dots. And you'll be able to see that the green dots are active cameras. The blue dots are future locations. We're still evaluating locations, so they'll continue to populate as we go. In each one of these, you will be able to click on it and see, where it's located, the time and the dates that it's been there. And you'll even be able to see individual images that we've saved. This is one of them, and I think that it should pull up here in a second. Well, this is, we can save these images. We're still working this out, but let me just do it this way. Let's go to this particular location. That is actually a recycling dumpster for single stream recycling. That we had just a huge issue with illegal dumping at this site. Within 2 days, I think that we had probably at least 12 to 15 dumpings at this one site. Not some of it was putting stuff inside of the dumpster, such as chain link fence, broken wooden stairs, and the like. But we had a lot of people putting stuff like this on the ground. And the issue that we had here is that we couldn't, because of the way he pulled in, we couldn't get his license tag. So what we did get was a picture of the vehicle. We got a good picture of the guy doing it. We got a side view because we have 2 cameras there. And we have put them out on social media to ask people to help us find them. Generated a lot of comments on Nextdoor and Facebook. And we do have some names, but it's difficult to find the individual. So we have lots of these. Let's see if I can pull up a couple other ones I can show you. This is one from Night. And these, I guess, these people came from a wedding or something to do their illegal dumping in the middle of the night. The gentleman has on a suit, looks almost like a tuxedo, but they dumped a mattress and some furniture. And while this one isn't very good, obviously, because it's nighttime, it's still enough that we're going to put this on social media and try to locate these people, because how many people went to a wedding on such and such date or a place and had a suit on and had to go dump some stuff? Somebody will know them, I think. So that was another one. And to combat the night dumping, we will be moving a second camera that is capable of doing a lot better at night, and we're going to couple them up. Let me go to. This is another individual, and it's a business, obviously. We do have the tag, so we will be able to at least run their tag and find, get them that way. That doesn't necessarily mean that we'll find them, because you'd be surprised at how many people don't live where their vehicle's registered, or the tag on the truck is stolen. There's a lot of them, but these guys pulled up. It's the older decal on the side. This is the other camera angle. They had a Louisville Metro garbage cart full of grass, a bunch of shingles and other debris. And they cleaned out their vehicle. Not really nice. Now, that's right in front of the camera. I feel pretty certain that even if we can't locate that truck, it's very identifiable, and we will find this person. One last one, and then I'll quit. I kind of get excited about these. Yeah, a gentleman that's dropping off just, he did drop off something else, but oops. He just dropped off a chair for us. And you can see somebody put this over here. This is all the other stuff. By the time that it was over in those 2 days, that entire side was full of tree debris and junk and garbage. And, we went through the whole thing. And the thing that we also noticed was what people were putting into the recycling container. And, we worked with Karen and her education team to kind of understand what people's mindset is. And some people are putting in big pieces of styrofoam. They're putting in a pair of blinds that are plastic. So there's definitely an education component that we can learn from these cameras. So yeah, we're doing pretty well with them, and we've got lots of them. I only showed you a fraction of what we got, and that was just in a few days. So I'm really excited about it, and hopefully we're going to be able to make a big impact on dumping and getting it out to the public. And if you guys, whenever you see one of our posts on social media, share it, get the word out there. Even if somebody doesn't know, the fact that they see that we have these cameras out there will deter as much dumping as trying to catch this individual. It gives people a little bit of pause before they just go and throw something out.
Pete, if you get an impoundment as the result of one of these cameras, Would you all be able to post that on social media? You might have to check with the attorneys, but I would think that would also be a nice deterrent for people to realize that, hey, these guys got caught and lost their truck.
Well, let me show you what we do. Let's go. Give me just a second. See, Karen can probably get there in a quarter of the time that I do.
Where are you going?
I'm going to solid waste illegal dumping.
Oh.
So we do-
illegal dumping.
I know, I just can't do it as fast as you. So we do keep this website that, this is where people can actually report illegal dumping, upload their images to us, and we can cite based upon that. And we have more people that are doing that, particularly with apartment complexes. And I have reached out to the apartment association, and we're going to work with them on trying to get information out on illegal dumping and how to prevent it. So we do have this, but we have, Bob, to your point, we have vehicles that we impounded that we are putting on our website. And we're also have people that we're looking for. So whenever we put out a social media post, whether they're impounded or whether or not that we're looking for them, we can always include this link to see more. And, it kind of helps us keeps continuing to renew it, refresh it, and get it out there with people. Some of these are pretty old. We need to update some of them for sure. And then we have a no waste webinar that we did on illegal dumping and for people so that they can learn how to prevent illegal dumping at their property. And really some of the best management practices around that. So I hope that kind of answered your question, Bob. We are doing it as much as we can, and we did talk with the county attorney's office.
Yeah, I knew you all were doing it on the website, but on Facebook and stuff like that might get a little bit longer reach too.
Yeah, we do put our impounds on social media that they've been caught. So we are doing that, right?
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't had any in a while. We post them in the Works Week, and often council people will post them too. But my goal, because we have one out right now where we're looking for someone. I'm hoping the next post will be an impound, and then we'll ask people to help us look again. So to kind of switch it back and forth a little bit.
So that's all I have on the enforcement side.
I would like to, we had a comment, I don't know if you read it, that at least they went to a drop-off site, which is helpful, not in a ravine, end of road, etc. Not saying it's right. That kind of comment comes on social media a lot too. Sometimes people want to give them the benefit of the doubt. It looks like they're trying to recycle. But, in most cases, these people know what they're doing. They're just trying to dump. So at least at a place like this, we were able to put up cameras so that we can, because unless it's a common place, they, Pete wouldn't know to put a camera up. So I don't know if you wanted to address that at all, Pete, but.
Well, it's interesting, the comments that we get on social media. It just informs us about what we're doing and helps us to change as needed. So yeah, the comments are definitely, people have a very strong opinion when it comes to illegal dumping and recycling. This kind of co-mingles them together. So it was a really good post. This particular site, which is the Fairdale Recycling Center, we actually ended up installing utility poles just for this. So we put a lot of money into being able to put the cameras up here, because if we don't do something, we are going to have to remove that dumpster because it just couldn't continue the way it is. We have this same issue at Bethany Lane, and we have the same issue at Mary T. Maher recycling centers. And to a certain extent, I think that we've had it at Urton Lane as well. So some of it is education, but most of these people know better, for sure.
Well, with the picture you have on the screen right now, when you look at what's in the back of that truck, that's not a confusion about recycling. That's somebody trying to save money by not disposing of that material properly.
Yeah. Some of the comments on social media was saying that, well, is some of that recyclable? So we're up against some of that too, but you can't fix that.
Chairman Schindler, may I
Yes.
ask a question? Have
Yes.
we ever reached out to see if we could get any regular television PSA airtime? Because if these people know that they're going to risk $1,000 to get rid of a commode versus, paying to drop it off at a proper disposal location, it may change. I don't know. But one would think that one of the news stations would just jump all over this to give us possibly some free exposure.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and maybe Karen can address it a little better, but my experience with this in the past is it's entirely dependent on the television station, the news cycle, and what they happen to particularly be interested in doing. And do they have any, in some cases, they would view something like this as a filler. And if they don't have any fillers available, then you never get around to it. But Karen might be able to address that a little better than I can, because it's been a while since I've dealt with it.
As far as the news picking it up, is that what you were saying, Bruce?
Yes. Does a common illegal dumper understand that they're risking $1,000 in charges and penalties to get rid of a, $25 load of waste illegally? And would the news media provide a public service announcement informing the community of that?
I mean, they've definitely picked up stories before when we've had impounds. And I know when we share it on social, an impound or in the works week, we always have the ending saying they could have dropped it off, like you can drop off loads for $60 at the waste reduction center or whatever. So, but instead they got, pretty much everybody gets around $1,000 total in fees. So I don't know what more you can really say.
I would include, Bruce, to your point, is that the media does love this story. And it's been a bit since we've had this out there. Our goal to jumpstart this is to get multiple impounds in a short amount of time, get multiple people that we're looking for on social media, and then try to really push it out in the works week, which will pull in the media, and we will get lots of interest from it. And at that point, the story becomes, hey, we've got a lot more cameras out there and we're looking. And if you think about dumping, don't do it. It's going to be this much. And on top of it, what are our pop-up drop-offs for? They have free disposals. Almost just a few days before that pop-up drop-off, all of this dumping was occurring. And I don't understand it. There's been free options. There's been options for people or low cost options for people to dispose of this stuff forever. He's got a truck. He can't claim that he didn't have transportation. He could have taken that to the right spot. And it's going to be a whole lot cheaper than when we catch him. I promise you that.
Well, I think it's a good program. I just like to get as many miles out of it as we can. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
Well, that will conclude what we have on the agenda for this meeting tonight. Are there any questions or comments from the general audience before we adjourn? Well, hearing none, thank you, everybody, members of the board and staff, for all of the presentations this evening. And I guess if I can have a motion to adjourn, we will go ahead and adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn. So we are officially adjourned at 6:52 p.m. on May 26th.
Amen.
Thank you.
Have a safe weekend.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, board members.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Pete,
Yes, sir.
it just popped into my mind during the meeting. It really wasn't relative to the meeting. Just for my own curiosity, who are we using for electronic recycling now?
West Rock Recycling.
West Rock?
Yeah, they, I think that they're turnkey, but that is who that we're looking at. That's who we have. I don't know if we'll switch the state. We had been using the state contract for a lot of years. And the company the state had went out of business and left all kind of warehouses full of material.
Oh, wow.
So they finally got a new contract, but we haven't changed from what we were doing. We may do that eventually.
Yeah, I was just curious, just
Mhm.
from going way back to the days when we had the Bureau of Prisons contract.
Mhm. I remember that.
So apparently there are a few businesses out there that are at least trying to make some money off of this, huh?
Off of electronics recycling. Yeah, the big knocker for us is TVs. TVs really drive because we have to pay for TVs and it's not cheap, and nobody else wants TVs. So we are the ones that are keeping it out, and we're bearing the cost of it, and it's significant. We're probably spending $40,000 a year on TV and electronics, and it would be more if we didn't get it offset by the CPUs and stuff like that does have value.
Yeah. Now, what if I'm keeping you, don't tell me.
Fine. You're fine.
What about the various screens that you get now, the LEDs and the LCDs and all of that? Is there any value to that, or is that lumped in with the whole TV thing?
It's somewhat, they're CRTs that, it depends upon how they break them up, and but there really isn't very much value in that. In fact, I would say it's probably a negative, but prices will fluctuate a little bit. That is what CES or CRS that the state had back in the day. And that is the one item that they had in their warehouse the most. And it wasn't just one warehouse. I mean, they were a nationwide company. And out in Riverport, they had one of those massive warehouses that was just full of this stuff.
Oh, wow.
We were very lucky in the fact that the warehouse owner that had rented it to them took care of that disposal. Otherwise, I don't know what we would have done, but he needed to get the site rented again, and so he took the hit.
Yeah.
The state was extremely happy about that.
Yeah,
It would have been the state that would have probably had to borne the cost of that cleanup. We might have had to do a grant request form to do it because, it's our county, but in the end, it would be the state's money that would get it cleaned up.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all
Excellent.
very much.
All right, Bob. You have a good night.
You do the same.
Thanks.
See y'all later. Take care, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Diane.
Okay, Miss Maynard. Miss
Yep.
Maynard, how do you think that it went tonight?
I think that went good.
I think there is definitely some confusion about the different committees.
Yeah. We got a lot of meetings going on that are all getting overlapped.
Yeah, and there's similar initiatives.
Yeah.
I think that we, at the next meeting, need to make sure that we're being really clear about what we're doing and the initiatives. And I think that maybe we need to have who's on that committee on the screen again, because I think some people are showing up thinking that they're showing up at the right committee meeting and they're not.
Yeah. They are. I was actually thinking about that, like how emails can go out to say, you are expected to attend this meeting and your presence counts toward a quorum. And then that can be an invite or whatever. And if we want to invite everybody, that's fine. You are invited to attend this meeting, but you aren't on this committee and your presence does not contribute to a quorum. I know Tim is confused.
I know one time that, at one time I still do, I guess, but I would send out multiple meeting requests, one to the committee or the board. And I would phrase it a whole lot different. But when it went out to the subcommittee or interested parties, I would just say notification of meeting.
Yeah.
So it might be just sending out a different invite with different language.
Yeah. I think we do need to maybe even in all of them, send like a little list. It's very clear at the top which meeting is when, but with the people, so they know what they're really expected to do. You can come to any of them. I wasn't sure if you caught on, I was kind of calling out Marie. Did you see her comment? Like when I was talking about comments on social media about illegal dumping.
Oh, she made a comment?
I was meaning this comment she put in the chat.
I didn't see the
that
chat.
wrote that. I didn't want to say her name. I took a picture of it and sent it to Rob because I was like, can you believe we have to read this kind of stuff on social media and then we have to read it on a board meeting call too? I thought that was kind of ridiculous, but
It's worrisome that the board chair does not understand what the survey is for.
that's a different comment. I'm talking about her second comment on that one.
They went to a drop-off site, which is helpful, when not in a ravine, end of the road, etc. They are at least trying, not saying it's right. Holy crap. Why in the world would she say something like that?
I don't know. I copied and pasted both of those comments and sent it to myself so I would have it. But I wasn't even sure what she meant by what was board chair not understanding. I didn't get that first comment, but.
It's worrisome that the board chair does not understand what the survey is for. We haven't presented them anything about the survey. How would he know?
Right.
It's confusing, and I am still concerned about the safety aspect of what the district is recommending.
Yeah, what's the safety?
If I'm guessing, I would say that's the self-haul thing, that she's worried about citizens stopping and dropping off.
Because you told me to send her the survey along with the letter. So I did that earlier.
Mm.
And
Maybe that's what she's referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I think it's a valid thing to bring up. I don't know that I totally agree with it, but it's a valid thing to bring up. We have people unloading here all the time.
Yeah.
Well, other people get out of their cars and trucks and unload at the dump? Isn't that just a hazard as well? I mean, it's not like they have, you know.
Yeah, any self-haul people that take it to the landfill, they have to unload their own truck. They don't have anybody that unloads it, so
Right.
how is it any different?
Well, I guess she's thinking the separation would make it more difficult and they would have to, I don't know, and it would be more of a safety issue. I don't know. That's what.
Safety's always an issue whenever you have
Safety
people
is
doing
always-
stuff, but I don't think that it changes because we have self-haul.
Right. Or separation, which
Mhm.
they should be doing anyway.
Mhm.
And they should be pre-separating it before they even try to
Part of
unload
the,
it.
part of the education, and the good
That's
part
right.
about the pop-up drop-off is that part about separate your load before you come. And I didn't notice, were there more people separating their load at the event?
Huh. We were so busy.
I mean, I don't think, nobody looks at me like they're surprised that I'm asking which categories they had, you know, like, I feel like people are looking at what's accepted and they know, okay, this goes with this and this goes with that. I know one guy, he had some mattresses underneath some clean pallets, you know, and I was like, well, hey, if you can get these pallets off, get that, you know, bulky waste was first. So it was like, it was all strapped down. But he's like, oh no, I can take the pallets off and then put them on over in the yard waste. So, of course, I never really watch what happens. We did have someone complain. I think I have it in my notes that I started on the PowerPoint I always make, but we did have someone at the very end know that he tried to separate his loads, and when he went to the bulky waste, they took it all, like, too quickly.
We had that early on. Somebody had electronics and our crew just threw it in. So I went over and talked with Booker, and no, the supervisor over at Brown.
David?
I think it was Brown, Terry Brown.
Oh, yeah.
And I told him about it, and he said, yeah, I'll make sure it doesn't happen. But the guy came to me and told me that, hey, they just pulled my stuff off and threw it in. I told him I'd take care of it. But that was even before the event took place. It was still 20 minutes before the event.
Huh.
Yeah, it's like, I almost don't want them to go to bulky waste first. You know, but it's, I don't know.
Yeah. Eventually, if we get this down and at a certain location, and we know that we're going to set it up a certain way, then we can say, you come in, the first thing you'll drop off is this, then this, then this, then this, then this. But I'm not sure that we're quite there yet.
Yeah. Booker also made a point to tell me that he and the managers and supervisors do not like Eastern High School.
He told me while we was there.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it for at least a year anyway, but.
And Piagentini made a point to tell me that he thought it was the perfect location.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to have that. We need to have that after action.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess we'll just have to wait till next week, I guess. It's like time just flies, and then holiday, Keith's out of town. I don't know.
Oh, hang on. Oh, you guys got the email too.
From Marie.
Yeah, just then.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone else noticed that I was kind of calling her out, but because I didn't say her name, but she knew. Whoops. She has the same mentality of the general public, which is surprising for her to have been in this industry for so long. That's all I was saying.
Yeah. What troubles me about her the last sentence, I realize how much effort and time it takes to keep the community clean. It was not a knock on the district. She is part of the district. Is she not? It's so bad that she's never around enough that she doesn't even see herself as being part of the district.
Yeah. I do have confirmation from Fowler that the church can be used if I haven't looked at the Google map to understand how that works, but we do have permission to use that lot.
Okay, that's good. We just need to make a plan.
And they already have all shred booked. But they asked what the problems were. You know, I said, well, Pete's had more problems than me, but I said, what we need to do is make sure they are there early enough and that they bring 2 trucks.
In case one breaks down.
Yeah. And I said that to Chris Lewis for the East End as well. So just trying to get and we got confirmation that Fern Creek, we can they'll open it for the bathrooms. Fern
Okay.
Creek.
I haven't even looked at Fern Creek's layout, so I don't know what we got going there.
Yeah. It's big. The lot is huge. So
That's good.
the in and out, that's the only, there's you know how schools always have like a little drive, like for buses to kind of just flow, like a little turn, I don't know what you call that, like a driveway. That's my only thing is maybe when people exit, they don't just go straight out where they came in, but they turn onto the little bus space so that they're at least away from the same spot where people are turning in.
Do you all have a design for it yet?
Mhm.
Can you send it to me?
Mhm.
'Cause I'd like to make my recommendations.
Mm-hmm. You'll need to.
I have strong opinions. I think that the last event was laid out really well. I think that there was just a few little hiccups, and you know, the only real design issue that there was the electronics, and that where they started to collect it was right in that turn instead of further down.
Yeah.
So
If
I
they
think
would
that
just think ahead and get some cars through a little, it would be better, but
yeah.
Yeah, having it narrow right there, I didn't realize it was going to be narrow. I was under the understanding that it was going to be 2 ways, 2 lanes.
Yeah. And yeah, that's what we need. And if it's a comfort issue for Diaz, which I know that it is, then we need to separate the 2 lanes with cones.
Cones. Yep. As for as long as he needs it to. Yes.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty tight even in the entrance with 2 lanes.
It was pretty tight even with the entrance.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Yep.
Well,
Well, we'll set up a
you-
meeting and
have a good
evaluate
night.
and be ready for June, Sun Valley.
All right. Y'all
Have
have
a
a
good
good night. See you tomorrow.
See ya.